Ladies and gents, welcome back to Tricky Talk. We got Easton Bahr up here on the screen. He's back for his second episode. And then in the top corner, we got Kenny Wexler. Kenny, you are new to Tricky Talk. Are you excited for this episode?
Very excited. Glad to be here.
All right, boys. NFL draft done without very many hiccups, actually. Like, the NFL draft went pretty good. It was the typical, draft days where Thursdays went good, and then everybody else kind of just started slipping on the second day and whatnot. And I mean, I will say, Roger did a fantastic job of adding in the booze. I don't know if you guys were able to see that, but that was funny.
That was hammered. Guaranteed that man was hammered at the end of the draft. Guaranteed.
But no, he did the. I think what it was he did the pre-commercial before the draft where he did the same thing where he was sitting on the couch with his dog, and then during the draft at the beginning he also let everybody do the fan boos from fan cams and all that. But that was fun. But let's hop into the draft talk itself. So we all know Joe Burrow was going to be number one. We all knew it.
Yeah.
Chase Young was number two. We all expected that as well. But then Jeff Okudah comes in at number 3 and goes to the Lions. So, I mean, was that the number 3 pick, or was that just the Lions looking for some defensive help in the secondary?
To me, it was the number 3 pick. They got rid of Darius Slay. They knew the guy to fill that spot. A lot of guys I've talked to had him as the number 1 player in the draft. I don't know about that necessarily with Chase Young, but to me, I think it was a good pick. It fills a need, and they, in their eyes, got their lockdown corner of the future.
It was needed. It was a lot needed. You look at them in the past. Secondary's always been their weakest point. You got a guy who can. Matthew Stafford gladly scores well. Come out, has no defense behind him that can actually stop, so he can't sit in there with a high-scoring quarterback and can't do anything to stop it.
And Jeff Okudah being one of the best cornerbacks in the college football draft. I mean, he was the steal at number 3, and I do kind of agree with your friend. He could have been the number 1 overall draft pick, but I mean, at the same time, athletically, yes, but you still have to deal with Joe Burrow, who set 4 straight records in this last season as a quarterback, won the Heisman, Natty Champ, and then Chase Young, who was obviously the best defensive player. So, I mean, Jeff Okudah really kind of got set back as that potential number 1 guy. Moving in now, you also have the first lineman that went in the draft at number 4. This baffled me a little bit because Andrew Thomas out of Georgia was not one of the better he was the better lineman in the draft, but I don't think personally he was the number 1 lineman that should have went, but the Giants picked him up anyways.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought maybe Wills or Wirfs would be that number 1 guy, but then Andrew Thomas kind of in there. I guess it's just personal preference, maybe system fit. I know a lot of these linemen, some played on the right, some played on the left. That could have played into it. I'm not a huge lineman guy. I don't look into that a lot, as it's not that exciting to me. But that could have played a factor. But either way, I don't think you can go wrong with any of those linemen in the early first.
I think they were honestly just looking for a big guy that they could stick in a hole. That's about it.
I mean, he is a very big boy. I mean, he blocked for DeAndre Swift and Jake Fromm. So, I mean, he blocked for a very high-powered Georgia offense, which gives Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley enough time on the Giants to really see what he's got to be able to have to deal with coming through with the blitz. Saquon Barkley hopefully will get some more open holes. So, I mean, there's a lot of versatility that you can use Thomas with. But, again, it really kind of baffled me that he was the number 1 lineman to come off the board that early. Also, moving right along here, we had the coveted debate. Easton, you and I talked about this before. Kenny, I want you to go first on this. Out of the Tua and Justin debate, it was whether or not Tua was going to be healthy. Dolphins, I believe it was the manager, already passed on Drew Brees, and you look where Drew Brees was. They pointed that out at the beginning of the draft. I mean, to go first off the board to Miami, was it the smart pick, or was it something that they were taking a risk on?
I got a hot take for you, honestly.
Okay.
Tua went way too early.
Ooh.
Tua is the next RG3, injury prone as could be, and will probably last in the league maximum 4 years.
All right, Easton Bahr, here to counter.
I mean,
counter?
I mean, yeah, I can see the argument both ways. I mean, with a hip injury, you never know. Hip injuries are very scary. Guys like Bo Jackson and that struggle with that. But I just think the upside is too much to pass on compared to a Justin Herbert that all he does is dump it down to the running back and throw it 30 feet over people's heads. It's big risk at number 5, and if it doesn't work out, the GM's going to be fired in a few years, obviously. That's the risk you take, but I just think his upside is way too much to pass up on. I understand him falling a little bit, but if you're the Dolphins, they're going to pick a quarterback there for the next 4 years, and you can't take a safe guy. I'd rather them take the risk and take the guy that could end up being a quarterback in the NFL, because before he got hurt, he was going to easily be the number 1 pick.
I would definitely agree with that.
I don't know. If you look at Hurts and you look at the record that Hurts had and the kind of ability that he showed.
Are you talking about Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert?
Jalen Hurts.
Oh wow, we're bringing Jalen Hurts early in.
I don't know. I'm looking at this guy's record, and I think he actually fell too far. I think he is going to be a sneak up in this year, and I think there's a lot to come from this guy. I don't think he got his rightful chance. Probably should have been around 1.
Jalen Hurts.
I think this guy has a lot of strengths, not a lot of weaknesses, and I think he really got overlooked.
Well, and speaking of that overlooking arching factor of it, it was, I believe, the 2nd round, correct, where Jalen Hurts went?
He went the 2nd round.
Second round to the Eagles.
53rd pick to the Eagles. So, I mean, yes, Jalen Hurts got overlooked. Jordan Love went before him. And I feel that was more of the fact that they wanted to take the risk on Jordan just because of his ability to continually make plays without having that just overarching pressure on him. So, personally, to me, I do agree with Kenny. I think Jalen Hurts got dropped a little too far.
The thing with Jalen Hurts with the NFL teams is that when you look at a guy like Jordan Love, he's more of an NFL-style quarterback, big arm. He can obviously run a little bit too, but more of a pro-style quarterback when Jalen Hurts is doing a lot more with his legs. Not as good of as a deep ball thrower, but I do love Jalen Hurts too. I like a guy that wins. I don't know if the Eagles was the right place, but good for him getting drafted in the 2nd round. I love that he's a winner, but I don't necessarily see him as a franchise quarterback.
Personally, to me, I will say with Jordan Love going to the Packers, like you said, they really like his deep ball athleticism. They love the way that he can really hit the breadbasket on those throws. Look at who he's going to be replacing. You're replacing the man who has almost the most final fade throws to the end zone in NFL history with success. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is notorious for that. So now you got a guy like Jordan Love who's able to just throw absolute darts down the middle of the field to whoever he wants. So, I mean, the Packers are able to use that to their advantage, and he has a fantastic mentor sitting.
Yeah, I'm not that high on Jordan Love. 17 interceptions. We talked about this earlier, but honestly, it's perfect situation for Jordan Love. If you're gonna draft a guy like that, you'd want him to stay for a couple of years and learn from one of the best that ever did it, whether I like it or not. Hating the Packers, I hate Aaron Rodgers, but I respect what he's done in this league. That's the place you want to go. But the Packers put themselves in a very tough situation, though, because they still have Rodgers for 4 years. I don't think he's going to retire. Jordan Love's rookie deal is like 5 years, so you're going to have to sit for 4 years? I don't think so. There's going to be some drama in the next 1 year. Rodgers and Love coming up, I feel.
I can definitely see that happening. Rodgers is definitely I want the spotlight kind of guy, and I don't like anybody who shows me up. So if Rodgers doesn't like that Jordan Love is taking advantage of him, then...
And remember this, they traded up to grab Love. Now, when Rodgers was drafted, he fell into the Packers' lap. The Packers made a move to go get to be their quarterback of the future. Instead of getting him one of the many great wide receivers, maybe he did get a running back, but he already had a running back, or defensive help. Like, they went and got the next quarterback. So what does that say to Rodgers? What is he thinking right now?
I mean, there's the thing of I'm thinking, am I personally getting replaced, or are they just looking for a guy for me to mentor? So, I mean, I do get what you're saying there. The Packers trying to trade up sends possibly the wrong message, but with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's very respectable and really just wants to help the franchise out, I mean, you gotta hope he sees that it's not a threatening move, but then again, we don't know.
Aaron Rodgers strikes me more of like a Joe Flacco kind of guy. Joe Flacco, when he went to the Broncos, came out and said, I'm not a teacher. I'm not here to teach. I'm here to win a Super Bowl. We all saw how that ended up. Well, we won't talk about that.
Easton,
that's a very good comparison. Two MVPs, Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers. I like what you did there. But the Packers were one game away from the Super Bowl, and they did not draft their needs early. They drafted a backup quarterback and a backup running back. I'm not complaining as a Vikings fan, but
it was a little bit tough to watch there with the Packers trying to not pick their overall arching needs. And speaking of that, I mean, you look at the rest of the draft here. Isaiah Simmons goes to the Cardinals. He was the outside linebacker. I mean, you call that kid Mr. Versatility. I mean, they showed the graphic on there. I mean, he played almost 400 snaps in 6 different positions. I mean, you can put him in a slot corner. You can put him at a normal cornerback. You can put him safety. I mean, this kid just flies around the field, and Arizona needs somebody on defense like that. They need somebody to create turnovers, and Isaiah Simmons is that guy.
I think he will be a lot more of a safety when he gets to the NFL. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think he will be more of in that linebacker position. I think they'll move him back, let him be a safety, let him get those reads. Because even in college, it looked like he played a lot more at safety than he did anywhere else.
Yeah, he played like slot corner the most, and obviously everywhere. But when asked what position he plays, he said defense. So
yeah, that's
and the Cardinals will use him wherever. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that'll really help them out, keeping going down the list. I mean, the next offensive lineman that was off the board was Jedrick Wills Jr. Out of Alabama. He went to the Browns. That'll give Baker Mayfield some good time there. Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. Kenny, you and I were talking about that. We want offensive lines for the Broncos. All of our offensive line picks dropped off the board within the first 10.
I thought Wirfs was going to fall. I thought he was going to fall just enough. He just kept going down and kept going down, and I thought that was going to be just that crazy blindside the Broncos were going to get him.
Well, sadly, we were wrong. Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa goes to Tampa Bay, so Tom Brady gets some more coverage there.
Tom Brady gets more help.
I mean, God forbid, Tom Brady just can't.
God forbid Tom Brady gets sacked.
Keep going down the list. The first wide receiver off the board went to the Las Vegas Raiders.
It's a good old Las Vegas.
Went to the Raiders. That was Henry Ruggs III. The first receiver off the board was Henry Ruggs. Is that just because he fit the Raiders system, or is that because
I can say exactly why he went to the Raiders. The Raiders and the AFC West all are trying to compete for an offense. They are all trying to out-offense the Chiefs.
This is what happens. See, John Gruden gets to play against Tyreek Hill twice a year, and he just destroys them. So he says, if they think he's their Tyreek Hill, good for them. I like Henry Ruggs, but is he a more complete receiver than Jerry and CeeDee Lamb? I don't think so. So I think it's a little reach. But they get the fastest guy in the draft and one of the fastest guys in the NFL, so we'll see what they do with him.
I mean, that was the biggest thing. I mean, he was going to be their deep ball threat. That's what Henry Ruggs was. Jerry Jeudy at Bama was the route runner. Henry Ruggs was that key guy that just goes down the field for those passes. I mean, you look at the way that Nick Saban used them and used Tua to that advantage of splitting them up across the field. I mean, Jerry would run the quick slants, and then you would have Ruggs just go down the field. So, I mean, that's the way that Gruden's going to use them. Perfectly fine. That tires him out for when he keeps coming down the list in the later weeks.
The Raiders' whole idea in the whole draft was Derek Carr kept complaining. He had nobody to throw to. He had no offense, all this stuff. So they gave him an offense. They gave him a full-fledged offense. If he does not do anything this year, mark my words, he gets fired. I don't care what they got to do. They will trade him. They will get rid of him. What was that one?
The backup. Marcus Mariota is backing him up now, I believe. So
Yeah, it is Mariota that's backing him up. I mean, he does have that, and
So he's got somebody
Mariota,
breathing down his neck.
again, though, at Oregon, notorious for throwing screens. So, I mean, being able to have that deep ball threat. Well, they do a lot of screens. They do a lot of runs. It's those quick pass routes. So, I mean, they're not used to throwing the ball 40 yards down the field. And that's the
if anything, Henry Ruggs, they get if he's not the most complete receiver in the draft, he can still run a 4.2. He's a deep ball threat. It gives Josh Jacobs a little bit of breathing room where he can't put 8 in the box every time. You have somebody out there on the outside where Josh Jacobs, I think, could be one of the best running backs in the league after his rookie season. It kind of puts it up for him either way.
Going down the list here, the next wide receiver goes to us. Kenny goes to the Broncos. Jerry, the teammate of Henry Ruggs out of Bama. We were talking about it again. We were saying, if anything, if Jerry Jeudy goes, I want CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
I still want Jeudy because we need a guy who we can line up in the slot, be our route guy, and that Drew Lock, the boy, will lead us to the promised land with.
Fits perfectly in the Broncos system. He's going to be that slot guy. Sutton's going to turn into the deep ball threat. That's basically what it's going to be, because you saw with Joe Flacco, lovely old Super Bowl MVP, Flacco could not throw the ball more than 10 yards. Could not throw the ball more than 10 yards. So that's why Sanders left. Sanders left because he was our deep ball threat and got what, like 5 passes in the first 5 weeks because Flacco couldn't throw the ball out. Well, now we have the same thing of, I think Jerry Jeudy's going to have a huge year of sitting there. We have a new offense basically, a lot of new guys. Locke is going to have, Drew Lock is going to have probably one of those quick short passes, and then if he can have the time, he'll use Sutton as a deep ball. And I think our last option will be our tight end. I can't think of his name right now, but no.
Yeah, if you're Drew Lock, you're the happiest guy after that first and second.
Absolutely. He was posting smirks on Twitter, so that gave me kind of some butterflies. I was like, okay, he's happy.
Personally, I wasn't a big Drew Lock guy, although I don't know as much as you guys do, and you guys are pretty high on him. But there's no excuses now. We got 3 pretty solid wide receivers with Sutton, and then hopefully Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. So it's all there. And you guys picked up Gordon too, so you got 2 good running backs. So I mean,
yeah. Well, the thing
outscore the Chiefs.
I've been watching.
Over there yet.
I'm a big college football guy, so I've watched a little bit of Drew Lock's career, especially since Kelly Bryant transferred over to Missouri, and I was like, okay, so is he going to get the starting job or not? Like, what's the deal here? Drew Lock, and especially in the Texas-Missouri game where Drew Lock put the horns up and then put him down, I mean, that you see the swagger in him. You see, like, the ability of him to be able to control the tempo of the field, and that's what I personally like about it. He has the accuracy. He has the awareness in the pocket. Does he need another year to really develop in the NFL? I think so, but getting more reps will give him that. And like you said, he got KJ Hamler, the Penn State receiver. I think you and I talked about this, Easton, at the beginning of the year, that was going to be the new Penn State kind of target, Penn State offense, because he was their guy that was able to run nice routes and be able to kind of split defenses. And now Denver picked him up, so I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the receiving core works. And then we did end up getting an offensive lineman at least. So I mean, there we go. But looking at the rest of the board here, the first running back off the board, I wasn't sure how the running back game was going to go, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU, the first running back off the board, goes to the Chiefs. Thoughts? Because that's a little bit of a hot topic, especially when you have DeAndre Swift, who is supposed to be the best running back in the NFL or in the draft, and then you had Jonathan Taylor, and then you had I can't think of the guy from Clemson.
Well, J.K. Dobbins was the
J.K. Dobbins as well.
But yeah, personally, I had DeAndre Swift number 1 and Jonathan Taylor 2. So Clyde Edwards is a little bit of a reach for me, but from Chiefs fans I've talked to, he fits their system the best, so I guess that's good for them. It is a reach, but I guess when you're the Chiefs, the defending champions, and most likely the favorites to win it all coming into this next year, I guess you can do whatever you want, and if he fits, he seems decently happy. He's not the best running back, but I guess he fits their system a little bit better. To me, it's a little bit questionable, but like I said, the Chiefs, best team in the league, they didn't really have to do much.
From what I saw, they were going to use him more as a receiving back. So he's going to be less of a running back, more of a receiving back, and he's just another person that I almost said Kareem Hunt, that Mahomes can throw to.
If that's the case, it is better than a Jonathan Taylor, who's a better runner, but not a great wide receiver.
But also, you got to look at the way Allaire played at LSU too. He was a little bit of a speed back, but at the same time, they used him a lot for screens. He was that power guy to get you that extra 3 yards that you needed for the first down. I mean, he had a fantastic game in the national championship. So I think the Chiefs really found a guy that can fit the system, that will be their quick outlet to Patrick Mahomes is able to use. Will he play a lot this year? I don't know. That's kind of up in the air, though.
I think it all depends. It just depends on the situation.
It does depend on the situation. Easton, you're a Vikings guy. You guys got Justin Jefferson in the first round. Of the first pick in the first round. How do you feel about the Justin Jefferson pick?
I actually absolutely love it. I did not expect Jefferson to fall to us. I actually expected us to trade up for him, and I think they were. I think it came out that Justin Jefferson might have been first on the Vikings board with all the receivers, which I don't know about that necessarily ahead of like Jerry Jeudy. But when the Eagles were in front of us and they needed a wide receiver, I expected it to be him. And when they took Jalen Reagor, I looked over at my friend and we just smiled because we knew exactly what was happening. We get one of the best wide receivers in the draft, and in a lot of different drafts made the number 1 wide receiver. But this is so deep that he's like the number 4 wide receiver. But I'm ecstatic about the pick.
He had 4 touchdowns in the first 2 quarters of the national championship alone, and all 4 of them were targets specifically to him. And I mean, just his breakaway speed, the routes he's able to run. I mean, he's got very good hands. And I mean, you look at the receiving core on that LSU team, especially coming into this draft. I mean, he was one of the best receivers. And like you said, he got pushed back just because of the class that was ahead of him. So, I mean, of this draft, I think the Vikings really picked out a good guy to really fit their system.
Yeah, and we didn't even have to trade up to get him, which is even better. We get him at number 22. That's pretty good value, if you ask me.
And then you guys also got Jeff Gladney, the TCU quarterback. He was kind of at a little bit of a higher value as well in this draft.
Yeah, I wasn't the highest on Jeff Gladney. I was more of like a Jalen Johnson guy just because he's a little bit bigger. Jeff Gladney about like 5'10", but he is a scrappy wide receiver. And a little bit later, like a 6'2" wide receiver, makes it a little bit better, I think. But he'll be all right. And we traded back and still got him at 31, so that makes it better. Rick Spielman made some good moves, some questionable moves, getting too many 6th, 7th round picks, but I think they did a good job early, and it's an okay pick.
I would like to point this out because I saw it on your Snapchat story, or it was on your Twitter. It was one of your social medias. You did get a Boise State Bronco in Ezra Cleveland. So a Bronco comes home to Minnesota.
Yeah, and a pretty big one. He was about 6'6" or 6'5", 315, 311, 315. Big guy, but he moves well, too. He played left tackle at Boise. You do what you want. They even handed the ball off to him a few times. He might play guard for the Vikings this first year, but if we need to, he could be our left tackle starting week 1.
It was a very good pickup there. Another quick one that Easton and I talked about last week. Kenny, I don't know how much you watched of him or how much you know of the name of A.J. Epinesa, the DN from Iowa. He dropped to 22, so he was the 52nd pick of the NFL draft. I mean, Easton, you and I had him going late, kind of in the 2nd round, and I mean, he went about middle of the 2nd round-ish. But, I mean, a very versatile guy from Iowa. Do you think he should have dropped that far, or do you think he should have been a little bit of a higher pick with the way that the defensive side played out?
Well, talent-wise, I think he's a first-round talent, and a long time ago he was going to be like a top 15 pick, so I think it was a great pick there late value-wise. I know teams got scared of his bench reps, but watch the film. The guy's a baller, and he just annihilates offensive lines and gets quarterbacks. So I think it's a great pick.
I don't think it's a bad pick. I think he could have gone sooner, absolutely. He has the talent for it. Look, like Easton said to his film, he's a great guy, great all around. He's going to play as hard as he can. And honestly, I think Buffalo got a great guy here. I think they really got a steal here.
I think it'll fit the system very, very well. But, guys, that's all the picks that we really kind of summed up last week. Any final thoughts on how the NFL draft went, or any dark horses that you guys think got picked back?
Well, I just think the Vikings might have just made themselves the best team in the NFC North. I think the Broncos got better too. So
definitely agree with that. The little bit of bias is here from all three of us. I mean, you got to show it every now and then.
Yeah.
A little bit of bias, but you know what? I can guarantee you the AFC West has stacked their offense. So for all the bettors out there, I'm taking the over on most of the AFC West.
He's calling it right now. He called it.
If you were a betting man, you would take the over, if you were.
Yeah.
If I was a betting man, if. I'm an NCAA athlete, I do not bet.
You heard it here first, folks. If he was, he would take the over.
If.
All right, boys. Well, thank you very much to my guests, Easton Bahr and Kenny Wexler. Kenny was very excited to hop on. Easton, I hope you enjoyed your second trip here. Hopefully we get you guys back soon to talk about the opening of the NFL season and how we think it's going to go, when it'll start. I've got a couple of other episodes I want to talk about with some MLB stuff. Kenny will join me for that as well. But for right now, guys, thank you for being on Tricky Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right. We will see you all later. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.